All right, man. Well, first of all, what's your name and what do you do?
All right, so I'm Daniel Valencia, and I am trying to be a professional triathlete here.
That's awesome. And today we're talking about your most recent race. I was trying to figure out how to pronounce it. It was Livigno?
Livigno, I think.
Livigno. Okay, Livigno. So explain what Livigno is.
Pretty much the race was in the northern part of Italy, in a place called Livigno, and that was like a 14-hour trip on the plane, and it's ended up taking us 5 hours to drive up there because of all the traffic, and it was crazy. But yeah, so the race is in the northern part of Italy, which is already crazy enough. And it's actually part of this group of races, or this federation called X-Tri. And what X-Tri is pretty much all the triathlons that people usually do. There's the shorter courses, and then there's the Ironman distance, which is the full distance. They take the full distance and then make it as hard as possible. So this is from starts to finish, you're at 6,000 feet of elevation climbing. And if you go, like Livigno itself is a little ski town, so everything up there is just mountains, and it's super beautiful. But it's just a crazy, crazy environment. Once you start to drive in it and start to drive around the mountains, get a feel for where you are, you realize that this isn't a joke. It's not just we're gonna ride around the city and just smile the entire time. Even in the car, you're feeling the car get weighed down by how steep the mountains are, and you're seeing the snow all up on the caps of the mountains in the distance, and you're starting to realize all that water's coming down. And I'm doing a triathlon. I'm supposed to swim. We gotta swim, bike, run, and make my way through it. But the place was beautiful, but it started to settle in more and more as I got closer to where we're driving off to, or where we're going to stay at. And it was intimidating, to say the least.
Right. So, man, just the fact that you were overseas doing this thing, because a lot of people, I've met a couple people that do similar things that you do, and they like Ironman and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, it's like in SAC, or it's like, in the Midwest, but for you, it's 14 hours away from home, or even longer with the drive, with traffic and everything. And then I seen the pictures you were posting, how it looks like you're in the Alps, high altitude. So I guess my next question for me, going into this race, knowing where it was going to be with the elevation and everything, and how you trained for it, did you put in mind the high altitude training?
So I'm gonna answer that with kind of we're gonna get to that part after I didn't finish the race, right? Because now everybody pretty much knows that I didn't finish the race, and that it happens. I went on my Instagram and I apologized to everybody, and I got a lot of people that pretty much said, "No, you don't have to apologize. You don't have to say sorry. Like, you went out there, you tried, you went out far. Like, most people wouldn't do this." And my biggest response to that wasn't, no, I'm not necessarily like apologizing because I feel sorry or I feel bad. It's because the work that needed to get done to finish that race and to get used to it with the altitude and stuff and all that, everything that needed to get done, perfectly dialed in, was not fully accounted for. So it's not, I don't apologize for not finishing the race. That is going to happen in a race career. It's inevitable. But I apologize for being unprepared. So the altitude and everything, it was such a kick in the ass, because I would be climbing the mountain on my bike and trying to run through it, and all of a sudden I'd just be toast, super quick toast, and I'd take a minute or two, and I'd recover pretty well. And then again, just repeat the process. Push, absolutely toast, be fried, lungs are burning, legs are burning, everything is burning. The entire time while I was out there, I was thinking, I was like, why am I burning out so quick? After the race is done, I'm like, oh, well, we're starting off at 6,000, then we're climbing 1,000 feet, then coming down. Then we're going climbing up another 1,000 feet, then coming down, just going up and down the elevation. And it hurt. I don't think there's any other way to say it or put it besides it was just painful. Dealing with the environment.
Right. Yeah, because I've heard of people doing, like, I know a lot of boxers do high altitude training just to get used to, like, high intensity and everything. So just hearing starting at 6,000, climbing up to 1,000 is like, I couldn't even personally think of myself because I don't even do cardio. So what besides, was it pain? Are you saying painful like because you didn't finish, painful because like it's actual like physical pain that you're feeling through that?
Mm-hmm. I would say that it was more physical pain. I think this race left a scar. It's something that's on my head. It's almost like, for everybody that watches anime out there, it's like in One Piece with Zoro after he loses to Mihawk in the very like beginning of the story arc. Where's that feeling? After it happened, my immediate thought is, I never want to feel this again. I'm okay with not finishing because either something gave out in me or I collapsed or whatever it is, right? I'm okay with that. But to feel the feeling of knowing that I just was not prepared, I never want to feel that again. And yes, the pain of the race, my legs were fried, everything was there, my lungs were burning. But that's all stuff I've dealt with before. I've pushed myself to limit to different things and felt it. And sure, it might be like a different flavor, but at the same thing, it ends up being just the same drink, right? But that feeling of just not quite being ready, or not even being ready, but just being underprepared and knowing that as you're going, of having those thoughts of, everybody has those thoughts for a race. Oh, did I train enough? Did I work hard enough? Have I put in the miles? Have I put in the time? Do I deserve to be here? And you don't really know until you face it. Once you face it, you kind of get smacked in the face whether or not you did what was required. And all that race showed me is that I did not do what was required. And I think part of me has gotten away with that a lot, of just being able to show up and show out and making it to the finish line or being able to achieve something. And that was a really big kick in the teeth of being like, pretty much saying, you have to get it together. You have to be the best example of how to do this process and then finish it.
No, I definitely feel that because like right now I'm 7 weeks out from my powerlifting competition. I feel like I'm not ready. Like I've even like had the thought in my head to just not even go. But at the same time, like how you said, you're never going to know if you're ready unless you're there. So that feeling for a lot of athletes, it's kind of haunting because you have this feeling inside of you. It's like you think you're not ready, or you don't know if you're ready. You don't know if you're putting in the right work. So with that being said, in the future, what are things that you were going to change, whether it be your mental state with the race, whether it be your training? What are the things that moving forward now that you know that you've been there, you know what it's about? What are things that you were going to change moving forward?
So I think my mental state with racing, I think, is on point. Depending on the race, there's certain things to tweak. Go harder at this point, be more conservative here. During the race, I think I'm fine. Mostly because I got eliminated because of a cutoff time. At 11 hours, I was supposed to be at mile, I think, 93. And at 11 hours, I was at mile at 80 something, right? So I was behind. But I knew I wasn't going to make that from the first 4 hours. Just seeing my paces, seeing how many mountains I had to climb and everything. I knew I wasn't going to make that pace, but I already made this decision. Well, I'm not going to stop until I have to, until I'm kicked out. And so I kept going for the remainder, 6-7 hours of just pedaling and trying to enjoy it. But the mentality of the training component, and I think it does come down to a coach. I've been pretty much self-coached the entire time, having a program, nothing really to one-on-one, which is funny enough because I'm always preaching, have a coach, find a coach, use a coach. And I've had coaches in other aspects of my life, but with triathlon, I haven't allowed myself to just fully be immersed in that coachy environment. So this time around, I've already talked to somebody. We've already talked about all the things we need to get done. And so heading into my next race, I'm going to be fully coached. And the entire goal of that is just be compliant. Do the work, shut up, keep your head down, get it done. At the end of the week, let's recap, figure it out, make any adjustments we need to, then run it back again. But just day in, day out, week in, week out, making sure that we're checking off what needs to be checked off. Mostly because when you're self-coached, it's super easy to just say, not today. All right, I don't feel it today, or I feel kind of weird, rather than making the proper adjustment.
I definitely felt like, I guess a lot of people can feel that too, because we have that pride, that sense of pride, like, I got this, I know what I'm doing. But then at the end of the day, as athletes, we need to be coachable, because we're still athletes, we're still learning. Next question for you would be, if you want to share, you don't have to share, but with your coaching, like, what are you guys going to start working on?
So immediately, the main thing that we're going to focus on is the swim. The swim has been my biggest downfall. It's just something that never came naturally. I mean, I have the background of a wrestler. We would just sink in a pool if we even got close to one. And so something that he told me is that he likes to work with people that really struggle with swimming. That's cool. That's where I'm at. So I think building that confidence of the swim and knowing that I'm going to get that part over faster and be less fatigued at the end of it. Because for this race, now to go a little bit into the actual race itself, of course, if anybody doesn't know what a triathlon is, swim, bike, run in that order. For this specific distance that I do, for the full distance, it's a 2.4 mile swim or 3.8 kilometer swim, followed by a 112 mile bike ride or 180 kilometer bike ride, and then a 26 mile run or 42 kilometer run, right? So there's metric and so it's a long race. It's a long fucking day. That's like, and the swim for this one actually got cut down a little bit. Instead of 3.8 kilometers, it went to 3, which is roughly, I think, 1.8 miles. So they cut off a good amount of time. But the reason for that was not because of the water temp. The water temp was cold. It was because of the air temp. Now, we started the swim at 5 in the morning on the dot, I believe. 5 in the morning. And leading up to it, it's dark. It's dark. They have some lights, a changing tent to go into if you need a warm up or anything like that. Then they have these little fires and one big bonfire in the middle. And this is right off the shore of the lake. And they have this ominous music playing where it's like the drums are doon, 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 and just eerie noise. And you're out there, and the air temperature is 0 degrees Celsius, so it's 32 degrees outside. And you're just in your swimsuit and then your wetsuit, so you're insulated, but you start to feel a little bit of the chill. And the water temperature was 52 degrees in the lake. So altogether, it was a cold swim. So that's why they pulled it in a little bit. But all of that is fine. The weirdest part about the swim was going into a lake and it's pitch black. All you have is your buoy. It's a clear buoy that you tie around your waist, and inside of it there's 2 glow sticks. So 2 red glow sticks. That way when you're swimming, they can see your trail. So when you're swimming, your hand is 2 feet in front of your face and you can't even see it. You might see a little blur pass by if you're paying attention. And there's boats out in the water, but most of them have their lights off so that you see the actual buoy, which is the one light you can see in the distance. And even when we were on shore, we were all asking each other, is that the buoy? Because there's boats out there, and but you can't really see. You just know that you're supposed to go in a straight direction. It's a simple swim because probably wouldn't make it if it wasn't. And you walk into the water, feet first. I have my boots on and my swim gloves just to keep as warm as possible. And I was surprised that it wasn't that cold to walk in. I felt calm. I felt fine. And we get into the water, and you start off with your first little batch of swimming. And I'm going. When I go to sight, which is you look up over the water to see where you're supposed to go, I'm a little bit off course to the left. But to my right and in front of me, you just see a trail. of just red lights, little red glow sticks, just all the way down the lake in front. You're pretty much saying that's the direction you're gonna go in. But it's surreal when it's just pitch black. It was the equivalent of what I could think of as being just floating in space, because there's nothing around you. And the trippy part was at some point one of the boats shined their light. They check on people, and out of nowhere, all the water under me just illuminates, and I could just see this bubble of light, and I'm just floating in it. And then it just turns off. You're back to just swimming.
Man, it almost sounds like a horror movie, bro. Ah, that's crazy. I don't me not responding. I'm just trying to not talk while you're talking. But wow, I can pick. I'm as you're speaking, I can picture everything in my mind. I'm really good at picturing things. But that part where you say the boat shines the light and you just see around you, that would freak me out. That's the thing. That's why I asked about the whole that part of the mental state is where I'm asking is when you're going through this, I wonder what people are thinking. It's do they get scared or you obviously have to keep calm because you're in the race. You don't want to panic attack or anything, but just the sounds of it, it's something that you really have to I guess you can't really mentally prepare because it's you don't know until you get there. So, man, that is crazy. To me, that's scary. That would make trip me out. I'd rather just be in a gym full of people and they're hyping us up and I'm lifting a bunch of weight. But, man, it kind of blows my mind. But okay. So you said you got past the swim part.
Yes.
And you got to the bike. What are your feelings finishing the swim part? What is your once you set foot on land? What are you thinking?
So the swim was a struggle because maybe 15 minutes into it, I felt my left leg just wanting to seize up already. I don't know why. That was super weird. That usually doesn't happen, especially not on my quad. So the entire race, I was just taking it nice and easy, nice and leisurely. I got concerned at some point because for the most part, I'm warm, I'm moving, I'm swimming, I'm being active. It's all good. But at some point during the swim, I just remember all of a sudden starting to feel a little bit colder. And it's one of those things where once you start to feel a little bit cold, you're going to get a lot of it cold really fast, and that's bad. And so during the swim, I swam from pitch black to the sun coming out. So when I came out of the water, it was already daylight. And when I got out of the water, my brother was my support group. So he's there monitoring me the entire time, making sure I'm okay. If I need anything, he gets it for me, all that stuff. He's just following me in a car. But at the end of the swim, he was out on the shore. And when I come out, he just grabs me. And I thought, oh, he's just going to help me out. Whatever. I didn't think much of it. But as I was going into the changing tent to change, all of a sudden I start shaking. As soon as I take off the wetsuit, I start to feel the cold and everything starts to set in. And he's telling me how people would come out of the swim and they'd be disorientated or they couldn't walk or they couldn't see straight. And he was even saying that one guy ended up jumping into the water when he saw the person he was helping out to help pull him out of the water because he was a little messed up. And so I was thinking that okay, maybe I'm all right. Maybe I'm doing okay. But then that cold started setting in, and it got to the point where I couldn't put my own socks on. I needed him to put my socks on. I had an entire plan of stuff I was going to wear for the bike, and it went out the window. I said, I need the biggest jacket you have on you. I need everything. And I ended up going out on the bike, super covered up, super heavy. I did not plan on that at all. I think the picture on my Instagram shows me in a big jacket. That was my brother's. That was the one he was wearing. And I told him I need that right now because I could not get warm. I couldn't get warm for probably the first 2 hours on the bike. I was just pedaling. I could not shake the feeling of being cold. And it was trippy because I almost felt, part of me felt, what happens if I do have a panic attack? Because I'm not used to this. This is super foreign to me. And I know that it's not even a mile until we hit the first hill, until we start climbing. As soon as you get out of the water and start going up the road, you immediately hit the first climb. And that's when the fun started. After the swim, I was stoked to be done. I was so happy because it terrified me. It's pitch black, swimming in freezing water. And so after that, I was pumped, but I was still freezing, so I couldn't think. And halfway ish up the first climb, before that, bringing my bike to Italy seemed smooth, but it got a little banged up, and I couldn't shift into my smallest gear. It would rub, and then it wouldn't shift properly. So I was always one gear away from it. And during the first climb, I was already dying. My legs were already hurting and all that stuff. So I tried to force it to go into the smallest gear, and it ended up jumping over and getting caught in the wheel. So I had to end up walking to the side of the road, finding a little ledge. And I spent about an hour troubleshooting my bike, trying to fix it. I'm trying to troubleshoot my bike. We all have our phones. But me and my brother already had a problem getting cell service in the first place the second we got to Italy. It didn't work. We ended up having to rent a car that needed GPS or had it in it. That way we can navigate to get where we want to go. And so right on that specific part of the mountain, I had no service. So I'm trying to troubleshoot it, trying to rip this apart. I don't have my tools to take off my back wheel because then I could just pull it out. So I'm trying to yank on the chain. But the problem is if I start pulling on the chain and it snaps, I don't have a spare. I don't have any spare links or anything, so it'd be done. One of the race organizers in their car ends up finding me and asked me if I need help or stuff, and I said yes. And they try to contact my brother, and they're trying to find all this stuff. So we're trying to get him to get my tools and all this other stuff and trying to troubleshoot this, but we can't get it out. Eventually, my brother ends up coming down the mountain because I've been missing for a little bit. Like, all right, he was supposed to be here already. And we end up taking the chain off the bike, but then the entire back gears that comes off, it's called the cassette, falls off. And so now we're troubleshooting putting it back together. And the entire time I'm thinking, there's no fucking way this is how this ends. There's no way this ends from mechanical troubles, from transporting the bike here. And eventually my brother takes the shoelace off of his shoe, we wrap the cassette, and because it's like a ratchet, so there's these little things that are sticking, the paws that are sticking out, we close it all together, slap it in the tire, and it fits into place. We pull the shoelace out, it's good. We're like, okay, cool, let's slam it back in the tire. At that point, though, the race organizer asked me, "You done? You want to stop now?" You got to keep in mind, this is hour 2, maybe 3 into the race, and they're already asking me, "So, you're giving up?" And I look at them. No, I'm not just gonna give up here. I'm like, all right, cool. We're just checking. And so we go up the first climb. First climb probably takes me 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours to finish. After that, it's just bombing the hill. I'm bombing these hills at 35, 40 miles an hour because in my head I've already lost enough time. But the thing to keep in mind is with an organized race, let's say like an Ironman race here, most of the streets will be cut off, or they have security making sure that people can go through. Over there, unless it was a really big roundabout, it's open traffic. There's people flying by you. There's these big ass construction trucks that are 3 times the size of a Duramax here that are just flying down the road. You're just on the shoulder of the road, just. And so I'm just bombing these hills, avoiding everything, trying to make up as much time as possible. Make it down the first descent, climb, second climb, dying. That's when I start thinking, what did I sign up for? Ooh, what's going on here? And I just kept pushing. Just for the times I would climb, I think 1, 2, 1, 2. Just kept telling myself the cadence. If I just keep moving my legs, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, eventually I'll get there. And that's all it was. Just going, stop, take a small break, meet my brother at a little passage. He'd give me whatever food I needed. I lived strictly off of Nutella sandwiches and energy gels. And he'd make my hydration mix. I'd be like, okay, I need this. Go up there. On the next one, you're going to hand me this stuff. And we just go back and forth, back and forth. And there'd be times where I'd send my brother off, and he told me, I'm going to take off after you go. And I told him, no, go ahead. I'm going to meet you at the next one. And I told him that because I didn't want him to see how just defeated I was after he left. Because I already know how I felt. I didn't need my support person also thinking, oh shit, is he hurting? But he'd leave and immediately I think, fuck, dude, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make this. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make this next pass, this next climb. And part of me started to think about everybody back here, back home. And it weighed on me during the race. Thinking, what are they going to think when I come back and I didn't finish? And it was a kick in the ass. But I think it also allowed me to get out of my head for a second and say, okay, well, nobody's really giving a fuck. After a week, unless I'm posting about it, nobody's going to give a shit. And then I'd look around me and see all the mountains and the waterfalls and all just like beautiful out there. And I thought, okay, well, there's much worse places to be in the summer. And so I just keep going. I keep riding. Eventually, I think I did 3 summits. 3 summits before I missed the cutoff time. And each one just seemed worse than the last. But the descents were pretty sweet. Just flying down. Yeah. There was something about it where you lose yourself in the pain. You lost yourself in feeling like shit. Oh, my legs hurt. My lungs are on fire. Even having the thoughts of, I don't want to be here. But then every so often you just take yourself out of it and realize, I get to be here. Regardless of what it is. I get to be. I chose to be here. I did everything that led me to this point. Right? So regardless of how it turns out, win, lose or fail, I'm going to just take in as much as I can. And I'd say that was probably one of the most eye-opening moments is when I just stopped and looked around and then I just smiled. I'm like, this is crazy. Half of the bike was in Switzerland because you cross from Italy into Switzerland, and there was a lot of nice cars. There was a stupid nice car. Like, there's so many just like C-Class Mercedes mobbing around. We saw a bunch of like Lamborghini. We saw a lot of Ferraris. I think we saw a handful of like Brabus modded cars. Just so many. And I was on the side of the road with my bike. Like, but it was this whole new perspective on what you could achieve, which was a weird parallel. I'm here doing a race, and then I'm looking at people in nice cars, and I'm over here killing myself, which is funny because I would be just biking and pushing my hardest, and there'd be locals just passing by me, and some of them would be like, "Oh, are you competing in the race?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Oh, that's nice." And they're like, "I'm not," and just pass me, and I'm like, "All right, go fuck myself, I guess." I still remember there was this part. And this kid looked like 16, and he just flew by me. And of course you justify it to yourself. You're like, well, I've been riding for like 50 miles. And you're like, no, the kid's just about it. Is really what it is. This is his world. And it made everything so much more lighthearted. Because I think for a very long time, anytime I set out to do something, it had to be dark and grungy. And because of pain, or because of, I wouldn't even say vengeance, but it's like trying to fucking be Batman. Like, you're like, ah.
We'll stop it there. That last part was hilarious. I'm fucking vengeance. No, but I love that because how you're saying, like, you're in pain, you're like lost in the fact that, you might not finish and everything, and then just life literally is like, hey, world's still fucking spinning. So it's, digging deep into faith, it's like you find beauty in the struggle. You find happiness in the struggle, because without the struggles, the good times would be nothing. And, you know, shout out J. Cole. There's beauty in the struggle. You know, there's beauty in it, because when you stop to look around and stop thinking about yourself, you really start to think like it could be worse. It could be worse. And then that last part, how you're saying like I feel like a lot of people when they go into training, they think grungy. I'm gonna, you know, I'm in pain, or I'm mad about something. It's like sometimes it doesn't have to be like that, because like how you said, the kid that isn't in the race, he's just flying by you, and it's like he's having the fucking time of his life, and I'm over here suffering. And then you validate yourself, like, yeah, I've been there. She's like, but yeah, maybe that kid does that every day, and you don't even know it, you know. So I think that's like the best part. That's the best way to go about it too. Is like how you said, you realized it, like, well, it could be worse, way worse. You're in Italy, you know. You're in Italy. Who else can say like I'm fucking struggling in Italy right now? So that's awesome. Like, you know, it's something a lot of people don't get to go through in life at all. It's like, and maybe they do in different scenarios, but in terms of doing something that they love, a lot of people tend to think it's always going to be fine and dandy. You know, they think that they're always going to have highs, and then once they have that one low moment, it's like it ruins it for them. But for you saw it as like, well, you know, I'm going to enjoy it. If I'm struggling right now, I'm going to enjoy it, because these fucking nice ass cars are passing me by, and these people are just like, hey, you know, kind of making it funny. So, you know, that's great. So I'd have to say another thing is like, you say your brother was there, you know, having a family member, because I'm sure a lot of people that are in the race, they probably either have a significant other or a really good friend that's doing it for them. And then, you know, having your brother being there, I wish he was here. We could ask him some questions too. But how did that feel, having your brother being your support person through the thing? Because like how you said, you wanted him to go ahead so he didn't see you struggle. I'm sure he probably knew, like, man, my brother. So how did you feel with him being like your support person?
It was cool. We were both trying to figure out how is this gonna work? How do we communicate? What's the best way to go about it? And there was a lot of rocky steps of just getting set up throughout the process. There was stuff that we had to check in. We didn't know that he had to have or that I was supposed to have, so we'd have to run out and buy stuff. And there was a deadline at 6 p.m. on Thursday to get our stuff checked in. And at 5 o'clock, we're still trying to find stuff to bring in, or else you can't start the race. And when the race started, it just meshed. There was no issue. He pretty much just listened. If I needed anything, he gave it to me. He had stuff said. I'd communicate, okay, I think I'm going to need this at this point, or we're going to have to get this, so make sure I get it. Make sure I eat it. I might not feel hungry or something, but you need to make sure that I take in these either supplements, food, whatever it is. And it was just go. There was no second doubts. There was nothing. And at some point, I felt bad for him when I kind of knew that I wasn't going to finish the race. Part of me felt bad, almost like I dragged him out there to go do this thing, and then if we don't finish, we didn't accomplish what we set out to do. But then I also realized, this motherfucker went to Italy. I'm pretty much on my dime. Like, and it made it feel a little less bad. But, you know, he did a good job. Even after the race, he didn't say much, but I knew he was concerned about how I was taking it. Because, of course, I felt defeated. But he was just there. And it's probably the first time in my life he's ever openly told me, he's like, maybe I shouldn't say anything. He's like, maybe I should stay quiet. Which is funny. But even when we finished the race and went back to our hotel, he went out, got us food, brought back food, everything, made sure if we needed anything, everything was taken care of, because I was just beat and just wanted to stay inside, and I was trying to recover at that point. And he did really good. I think at some point during the bike, I told him, I was like, you're doing a really good job. Like, just keep it up. And it went better than I probably could have imagined, especially for a first time support crew. And yeah, there were some people out there that had whole teams of people. You're supposed to have one primary support crew, and then the rest can be whatever. But the main support crew can only go into access areas. But no, it was just me and him the entire time from start to finish, from flying out to getting there. It was just the two of us, and making all the ends meet that we needed to, making sure we got to stuff in time, keep ourselves on track and everything, and just trying to enjoy the process as much as possible.
Now, moving forward with the race being over with, the recap, and with all the support you've had, what would you have to say to the people supporting you now, going forward with everything?
First and foremost is thank you to everybody that supported me, everybody that's given me the time of the day for all the shit that I do. I try not to think of anything as in you deserve something. I try not to use the word anymore. I used to use it a lot. But I definitely don't think that I deserve the attention that I get with all this stuff, but I'm appreciative and grateful for all of it. And I'm excited for this next part. Because I think, like my lady told me, that there's probably a reason for this. I probably just needed to get humbled real hard. And from the time the race was over till right now, today, there's already been massive shifts that I've been trying to make in my life that I'm already seeing really cool stuff happen. And it makes me think that the version of me that I have been and that started everything. The original version of Never Settle, everything. We'll just call it the 1.0 version for to keep it simple. That version of me served a purpose. And I think it was I thought that it was the explosion, but I think it was just the wick. And now I'm able to kind of see beyond that and think, oh, we haven't even scratched the surface on shit. So I'm excited. I'm pretty fucking excited.
Love it.